So, hi, Kate. So nice to see you. And thank you so much for joining our After Hours series.
Great to be here. I'm Kate Beardsley. I am married. I have two kids, 5 and 6, and I am a founder of a company that I manage. And I was just telling you, Meg, that I was up from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. with my oldest who got food poisoning, which was not in the cards or in my plan. So I'm thrilled that she's feeling better. But as a parent, and I'm sure many people listening, watching are parents, you just never know how your days are going to go.
How has it been? How would it have been different if you had this experience with your daughter and you had to go through your day like today, pre-GTD coaching and
Oh, yeah.
where you are now? Give us a little sense of what that would have been like back then and how you and we're kind of, I think, like in our fourth month of doing the GTD coaching.
It just would have been more harried. I think in those moments, it really requires your focus. You can't be doing other things or just essentially worrying about X, Y, and Z. And so I've said this before, but the peace of mind that GTD provides me to basically be present in the moment, whether my kids are sick or not, whether we're playing a board game or something, I don't have the temptation to look at my phone or essentially try to plan things because I've already kind of done it for the day, and this was kind of my goal. And so there's always a forecast list that I know that I'm checking. There's always all the lists that I'm checking. And I was actually out at a dinner for work. So I didn't get home till about 9:30. I'm usually in bed by 9:30. But on my way home, I was able to just make a couple quick notes from the conversations I had in my inbox, tagging them correctly, knowing that tomorrow, meaning today, at some point I would see those prompts because it was fresh in my mind and be able to just address them then. And that gave me such peace of mind, also knowing that I was walking into a house with a sick kid. And so any of that, if I hadn't just taken that brief moment and GTD allowed me to capture those ideas, I completely put the dinner out of my head, completely, put all those concerns out. And then luckily my daughter felt good enough to go to school this morning, almost on time. So my day really wasn't disrupted as I was anticipating. And I went back to those notes and everything else that I had, set for my future self on today. And it all prompted the way that it was supposed to. So I did actually get some sleep, and I did actually wasn't able to, I'd say, put my head on the pillow with the anxiety of what am I forgetting? And I used to have that every single day, I feel like, before GTD.
How did you come to find us? Was it through the Omni show? Had you heard about GTD before the Omni show
I
that I
had,
did with Andrew? Oh, you had.
yeah. So I have this book from 2019. I can't remember exactly where the Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity sounds like such a amazing future state by David Allen. Um, it must have been on a podcast or something. I'm a bit of a productivity nerd, and so my husband teases me that I would, that's sort of one category of podcast that I listen to is just how to, be more productive. And it's certainly referenced again and again. And so I know I had heard it a couple times from either that community. And so it prompted me to read the book, read the book cover to cover. And in my anxiety ridden comprehensive brain, I was like, this has so much stuff in it. I have no idea how to implement this. So it was immediately overwhelming for me to say, I'm not going to spend 2 weeks essentially like going through every little post-it note and every email to try to put it in a system. And so then I kind of put that aside and was like, it would be a nice future state. I just don't know that I'll ever achieve it. I also didn't go down a wormhole of like looking for coaching immediately. And then I found OmniFocus through similar sort of productivity channels. And I found that that was also referenced almost as frequently as David Allen, and definitely together as like, this is a technology software that can implement. I invest in technology software as a job. So it really, I would say was it just drew me to the idea of using software to be able to manage my days, especially mobile first. Being able to have it on a device was really great, plus desktop, et cetera. And so have there be like fluid information transferring between all three. And that's where I was listening to the OmniFocus podcast, and it was brought up, and you were on the podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need now. I've read the book. I've played with the software for a year, albeit badly. I need someone to coach me through essentially what I'm now deeply interested in learning. But I think that's the key, is that it wasn't just a passing, idea. I had been sort of ruminating on this topic since 2019, kind of feeling around in the dark. And so it was really, I'd say, at an optimal moment to be led by someone who is just deeply knowledgeable.
What were some of your early takeaways when we started to get into OmniFocus? I think one of the things that people are always asking is, how does everybody use the tool that they're using? And,
Yeah.
where do you feel like you are just where you came to the coaching with your lists and kind of where you are now?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I came to the coaching with a pile of ideas. Basically every single I'd say project was, I thought, was a project. I looked at every little thing as, this is a mountain of information I need to sort through. And it was sort of lists for the sake of lists, or just a dumping ground for my ideas, and there was no rhyme or reason essentially to how I was kind of organizing things. I thought I was being thematic, but going through the coaching, it was such an aha of like, oh, of course, like this is so obvious.
Yeah.
And it gives, I'd say, I don't know, just vernacular of how to remember things, especially in the next action thinking. And it really, really forces a pattern that is totally easily maintained, but it makes sense to a lot of different people, in brain types. It's not as if it's sort of geared for one specific type of use. There is flexibility in the technology to do that, but I just had a pile of intimidating notes that I was like, oh gosh, I don't even want to open that because I can't even remember what I put in there. I think the first day you gave me the tickler file strategy of like how to, just organize dates, or, set in tickler files, and you should have them based on month. And I was like, how obvious, of course, that makes so much sense. And I just wasn't thinking of items in that sort of formal fashion.
All those ideas were just so all over the place, and you had so much volume. We have so many things that we have to do over and over and over again, and kind of where do you put that? And that was, you just now had this whole place to put all of that stuff that was on your mind.
Yep.
Now it has a home. And then same with your checklists, and same with all your lists. And then what that did, because you had so much volume, it allowed us to really then focus on, okay, what are your personal projects? What are your work projects? What are your client projects? What are the next actions? And then on our last call, you were sharing about how your productivity just soaring, because you were able to really take very complicated projects, particularly when you were sharing that a lot of these projects were a first. This was
Yeah.
like the first time you were doing things, right?
Yep. Yep.
And when I find that when we have projects that we have to do and it's a first, it can be so overwhelming.
Oh my gosh. Like paralyzing. You're just like, I don't even know where to start. And that next action thinking can just be so intimidating in some way, because there's a lot of potential next actions, but even just putting them down and thinking through what would I do, even if it was just the smallest step, I mean, that just unlocks right there.
Where do you feel like you are now on your GTD journey? We're going to be getting into kind of the weekly reviews, which are going to be so much more manageable for you.
Yes. Yes. The weekly reviews, it was equally intimidating, right? Like it's just a mountain of things going through. And I think so much of this practice is fascinating because it's really unlocking a lot of these micro steps that you as an individual don't even know you take. So part of why I think opening someone's inbox and email is so intimidating is because you're looking at, okay, a date when something was sent from who, but there's no context, into that line item. So you have to open the email and then you have to read it. And then you have to think about, okay, why have I not responded? Or what do I need to do to respond? I can't do that right now. I'm going to close it, but there's no essentially digestion from that look into something where it's like, okay, I need to go get an answer from someone before I can do that. So that's the next action. Do you write that down on a piece of paper? How do you how do you kind of move the project forward? And in looking at the lists and projects that I have in the way that GTD forces organization is like, okay, I know I reached out to Doug today. We originally started talking about a meeting in October. Here's the last point I had on that responsibility. And it's all sort of dialed in a very specific format so that I can glance at it and remember exactly what we were, moving forward in terms of the topic versus just an email from Doug. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that at first glance. So it's right down to, like you said, the verb and essentially where I'm placing it with what tags.
Right.
And so much so that I can be at line at the grocery store and glance at something and know exactly what I need to do to push a project forward or check things off at a list. And that's that peace of mind that I just keep coming back to of like, okay, things are all accounted for and there's systems to be able to prompt when I need it. So yeah, it's been awesome.
I don't think I've met anybody that came in with a fairly simple and elegant system. I think I saw people have such incredibly overbuilt
Yeah.
systems that there's just no way that you can maintain it, right? And so it's like that stripping it down and building it back out and taking
Yeah.
the arbitrary due dates out, right? And then having
Oh
due
yeah.
dates that really mean anything so that when you are looking at your list, you can really make that distinction between what are the things that I really have to get done today versus all the things I need to get done as soon as I can.
Yep.
And so I think that you were just really another case in point where
Oh
when I
my gosh.
came
I would
in and
move
I
the
was
due date
just like,
every day. I'd be like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll change the due date because it feels weirdly satisfying. And then demoralizing when you have to move it again because you didn't address it 24 hours later with grand expectations of finding free time to do it.
and do you feel now after these couple of months that you have this like external trusted system that's able to really hold the very big life that you have as this working mom and you having, all the things that you do and the travel and, having this quality time with your partner and your
Yeah.
friends and family. And I just even when I look at you, you just even come in so much more
Oh my gosh.
relaxed
Well,
than
first of all, I'm on
than
time.
your first
for
call that you were just so wired.
Oh yeah. And that's just how I was running,
Right.
because we as humans generally have a tendency to just want to say yes, and we have to learn to say no to things. And definitely as a working mom, I have an extreme tendency to say yes. Of course I want to go to the kids' Valentine's Day, activity that I have to move 4 meetings in order to make. But like, I think it was absolutely this difference, and it was again in these micro behaviors. Like I'm on time for meetings now. I was almost always in my partner too on my business. We were almost always 5 to 10 minutes late for everything because there was no time to do the thing in between the meetings and the scheduling. And so all of this comes into obviously managing calendar and all the rest of the things. But I'm actually getting through some of these somewhat cumbersome and intimidating projects that in some cases I've just been putting off for months to a
Right.
year, saying like, I'll do it later. I just don't have the headspace to tackle the big thing right now. And it's usually never as big as I imagine it to be. But the point is I don't know how to get started and keep the ball moving while I'm juggling all the other things, someday I'll have free time. And I think the system has created so much free time in my days that I'm getting through backlogs of emails. I'm getting through backlogs of projects and in a way, and I'm spending time on the weekends actually like reading a book and
Oh,
doing things with my family and friends in a way that we all have that answer of like, I'm just so busy. I just don't know when I'll find the free time. But it is on us as individuals to carve out the time. And it's not to say that this system will, solve all the problems, but it definitely is put things into focus as what is actually a priority and what is actually something that can sit on the back burner. And again, when I have time on the weekends to tackle a couple things, they're organized in a way that I'm actually clicking those things off very quickly versus like, what did I want to do on Saturday that was going to make me feel productive? So it's just a refocusing of all the things. Again, you get out of it what you put in, but that refocusing against one's own priorities and having
right.
that reflected back to you is like really powerful. I didn't anticipate how amazing that would be. So it's very cool.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share of your experience? And
I mean, what I've said before is I just didn't expect the clarity of mind, the peace of mind. Again, what I sort of was just answering is like there was this desired future state that, oh, I'll do that when, I have time in my life to dedicate towards learning a new skill, or, we all have these goals, and you sort of put them in the back of your mind because everything else is a priority. And there's just never a better time than right now to start trying to adjust to those things. I want an exercise routine. I want to see my friends more. And we're only going to get more things coming. So it's kind of the onus is on us to be able to figure out how to handle it. And no, we all know what it's like to look at someone who's overly busy and seems like they're just like I was, wired really tight, not really listening when you're having a conversation with them. And it's not good. It's not a good look for you. It sort of damages the relationship. And so I think that's the thing that I was not really realizing what was the residual effect of just existing in this sort of fragile state of likely burnout. And so I think that's the thing. Again, I didn't anticipate what a great opportunity it would be to just like get my house in order. And you and I talked about this too. I'm the eldest daughter and the eldest grandchild. And so oftentimes extended family responsibility falls on, that I'd say archetype of human in families. And I'm fully prepared that it will for me. And I'm like honored to do anything I can to help aunts and uncles and parents and cousins and all that sort of stuff. So, but again, I have to have the space to be able to handle that. And often the saying is that busy people get more work, and I'm a busy person. I just know I'm going to have more things that are going to be complex as my children age and, my business becomes more complex. So how am I creating the open space to be able to handle that and to think strategically? That's the other benefit that I've seen too, is I do really well when I have time to ruminate on projects, theses, strategy. And if one is going from highly active, activity and 12 Zoom meetings a day, with no end when you finish work to just transition into family life or extended travel, there's just things get lost. There's just no way to think strategically. You don't have the time. And so that's also the added benefit that I was like really looking for, is like how you just can't block it out on your calendar. It's not enough because that time will get eaten up by the little things you felt like you needed to do in that time. So it's really just reprioritizing. And again, having those priorities reflected back to you in a system. It's glorious. Like I wish I had done this years ago, knowing the benefit, because I just didn't think life could be like this. And I'm so happy to have figured out in my early 40s instead of, I don't know, having it be a dream state that I never achieve. So I wish all the people with complex lives and the desire to change that to try this, because it's just so nice on the other side.
for more GTD resources, please visit gettingthingsdone.com and David Allen's YouTube channel. For more information on GTD coaching, please email us at info@gtdfocus.com or visit our website at gtdfocus.com.